Earlier tonight, you saw the program Who Do You Think You Are here on Channel 13. Marissa Tomei traveled to Italy and learned about a great-grandfather who died under mysterious circumstances. Well, recently, I had a chance to work with Ancestry.com to trace part of my family tree that I knew virtually nothing about. And I found that my relatives have had a huge impact on my life all along. I just never realized it. St. Mary's Cemetery on the north side of Pittsburgh is a place I've been to dozens of times. My grandmother, Martina Knaus, was buried here in the 1970s, next to my grandfather, Anton. His life was always a mystery to me, just a name carved into granite, and the dates, 1885 to 1940.
Now, your grandfather, Anton, came over twice.
Now, Anastasia Harmon of Ancestry.com is helping me fill in the blanks, a lifetime pieced together through old ship records, census data, and even a World War I draft card. We met at the University of Pittsburgh's Cathedral of Learning in a room dedicated to Austrian heritage, the kind of thing my peasant tenant farmer ancestors would never have experienced in their poor rural village.
They worked hard on their land, but they didn't have a lot of opportunity and hope for success.
So like other Europeans at the turn of the 20th century, Anton and his sister Alois followed older brother Michael to America in hopes of a better life. They lived with Michael, who came over a few years earlier.
And as far as we can tell, all three children of this couple, of your great-grandparents, came to the United States, but we can't find record of them coming to the United States.
Pittsburgh was the center of the Industrial Revolution, producing half of the nation's steel. Opportunity forged in the mills on the banks of the Allegheny River. Many of the immigrants who came here to Pittsburgh in the early 20th century ended up working in those steel mills. But not my grandfather. My grandfather worked in this building. They didn't make steel. They made iron. Iron City Beer is an iconic Pittsburgh product, made in this building for almost 150 years in huge vats that once sat right here. Anton Knaus was one of the men who bottled it. During Prohibition, he made ketchup at Heinz and worked in a meatpacking plant. He came back here in the 30s when Prohibition was lifted.
Well, it wasn't farming, but working here, working in the other factories, ketchup and meatpacking, he owned his own home.
And this is the home he owned, a two-story house on a hill above the city. The 1930 census says it was worth $7,000, an extraordinary achievement for a man who had no shot at owning a home or land in his native Austria.
They often say that it takes to, the second generation, your mom's generation or your generation, to kind of achieve that American dream, but he was very successful coming here.
Anton and his young family lived on the second floor. His brother-in-law's family rented the first floor. And just as this generation of immigrants gravitated to one another in life, they rest close to each other almost a century later.
There's a lot of branches in this family tree.
Far more than I ever knew. To finish my story, we have to come back to where we began, St. Mary's Cemetery. Genealogy is not just about the branches above you on a family tree, it's about the ones below, too. And this is where mine come together. My firstborn son, Jared, is also here at St. Mary's. He died more than 20 years ago at age 4. Since then, I felt badly that he was so far removed from his family. It turns out he's not. He's next to his great-grandparents, but my grandfather's brother, Michael, is also buried nearby, next to his wife, Josephine. And there's more. Joseph, Marie, and Frank.
Michael's daughter, Rose, and her husband, Coleman.
Anton's sister, Alois, is buried here, too, in an unmarked grave. There are Bachs and Pinters and Almers, all closely related to the generation that came to Pittsburgh more than 100 years ago. The book of Matthew says, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." And now I know that this part of my heart is surrounded by family. I had very low expectations going into this process. I always thought my family was small and not very important in the scheme of things, but I did learn that previous generations lived lives that matter.
Absolutely.
And when we pay attention, we find they still matter today.
Truly gives you a sense of purpose, even moving forward.
And I'll tell you, it was much more emotional than I thought it was going to be. It really was.
Yeah. It's a wonderful story, John. Thank you.